Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
We've been through everything on collusion and obstruction. We can't find an incriminating anything. And we need a basis for this investigation, particularly since we now know it was started by biased people.
We have James Comey's testimony.
Well, Comey's testimony is hardly worth anything. And nor did he ever. James Comey had never found any evidence of collusion and rules out obstruction by saying the president had a right to fire me. So all the rest of it is just politics. I mean, the reality is Comey, in some ways, ends up being a good witness for us. Unless you assume they're trying to get him into a perjury trap, by he tells his version, somebody else has a different version.
How is he a good witness for the president if he's saying that the president was asking him, directing him, in his words, to let the Michael Flynn investigation go?
He didn't direct him to do that. What he said to him was, can you give him a break?
Comey says he took it as direction.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I've taken it that way. I mean, by that time, he had been fired. And he said a lot of other things, some of which have turned out to be untrue. The reality is, as a prosecutor, I was told that many times, can you give the man a break? Either by his lawyers, by his relatives, by friends. You take that into consideration, but that doesn't determine that not going forward with it.
Oh, my God. So Rudy Giuliani is a terrible, terrible liar. And by that, I mean he's not very good at it. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. We did have a few days without Rudy Giuliani, and it reminded us how nice it is to have one less shameless liar constantly go on the TV. I got to say, he needed the practice, though. He should have never given up the, he was like, butter my ass, I'm on a roll with the lying. He's like out of step there, because right there is where he admits that the president did indeed ask James Comey to give Flynn a break. Now, the president of the United States has been asked 8 ways to Sunday by 90,000 different reporters if in any way, shape, or form he had ever asked James Comey to go easy on Flynn.
Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back...
No. Next question.
That was just the shortest one, so that you didn't have to suffer through too much Trump there. But no, I know the next question. I never, in any way, shape, or form. And there's, his pal Rudy Giuliani, who is, trying to get his chops up to speed with his incompetence, so they'll be equal, admitting that the president did tell James Comey. And all lawyers do that. Can you go easy on my client? No, only when you have a guilty client do you say, can you go easy on my client, you moron. Only when you have a guilty client do you ask for mercy. Mercy! I mean, this is unbelievable, right? This is crazy. And by the way, this is James Comey's freaking testimony.
Why do you believe you were fired?
Guess I don't know for sure. I believe I think the president had his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. Something about the way I was conducting it, the president felt created pressure on him that he wanted to relieve. Again, I didn't know that at the time, but I've watched his interview. I've read the press accounts of his conversations, so I take him at his word there. Now, look, I could be wrong. Maybe he's saying something that's not true, but I take him at his word, at least based on what I know now.
Talk for a moment about his request that you pledge loyalty and your response to that and what impact you believe that had.
I don't know for sure, because I don't know the president well enough to read him well. I think it was, first of all, our relationship didn't get off to a great start, given the conversation I had to have on January 6th. This was not, this didn't improve the relationship.
So just as a quick refresher, the conversation he had to have on January 6th was about the PP tape, right? Yeah.
Because it was very, very awkward. He was asking for something, and I was refusing to give it. But again, I don't know him well enough to know how he reacted to that exactly.
Do you believe the Russia investigation played a role?
And why I was fired?
Yes.
Yes, because I've seen the president say so.
Right.
Let's go to the Flynn issue.
Yeah.
Senator Risch outlined, I hope you could see your way to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go.
Right.
But you also said in your written remarks, and I quote, that you had understood the president to be requesting that we drop any investigation of Flynn in connection with false statements about his conversations with the Russian ambassador in December, end quote. Please go into that with more detail.
Well, the context and the president's words are what led me to that conclusion. As I said in my statement, I could be wrong, but Flynn had been forced to resign the day before.
The day before.
And the controversy around General Flynn at that point in time was centered on whether he had lied to the vice president about the nature of his conversations with the Russians, whether he had been candid with others in the course of that. And so that happens on the day before. On the 14th, the president makes specific reference to that. And so that's why I understood him to be saying that what he wanted me to do was drop any investigation connected to Flynn's account of his conversations with the Russians.
Yeah, but Comey, you know, he's under oath there. And of course, he's the former FBI director. And Rudy Giuliani says we should believe Donald Trump over James. It didn't mean anything. His testimony, it didn't mean anything. It was no good. It was no good. Now, why is this happening? Okay, here's why this is happening. Do you remember, and let's refresh, it's Monday. You might be, you know, a little in need of refreshments. So let's do it. Rudy Giuliani had said previously that they were going to make a decision about when or if Donald Trump would sit down with Robert Mueller. Right? Right. And when he was pressed for a deadline, he first said soon, and then he backtracked and he said the last time he made the rounds on TV that they would make a decision about whether or not Trump would sit down with Robert Mueller by the 4th of July. Well, everybody, it's the 9th of July today, and they haven't made a decision about whether or not to sit down with Robert Mueller. So, therefore, Rudy Giuliani is on the TV trying again not only to move the goalposts, but to obscure the fact that there are goalposts that they posted in the ground. Now he says there have to be new conditions. New conditions. Oh, yes. He wants, this is unbelievable. Apparently in Rudy Giuliani's America, there is some sort of a rule or a law or something in his head that says that you can't have an investigation unless you first prove a person's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to that person. Yes, you have to have a one-on-one with that person as the prosecutor of that person, and you have to show that person your whole case before you go in front of a jury of your peers. The prosecutor now owes it to the defendant to stage a trial before the defendant, show all the evidence that the prosecutor has, show all the exhibits that the prosecutor will introduce, show all of the testimony that the prosecutor will elicit from the witnesses prior to the defendant agreeing to go to court. That's only possible in Trump world, okay? That is not possible in a court of law. That is not possible anywhere in America except in Rudy Giuliani's head.
Why not just tell the special counsel, sorry, no interview?
Yeah, really.
Well, we'd like to know if there's any factual basis for the investigation originally, or they've developed one, because we can't find one, nor can anyone else, nor have they, with all the leaking they've done, even leaked one, which I think would have happened immediately because they want to justify themselves. The fact is, I should correct it.
Yeah, correct
I didn't say they have to prove a crime.
You did.
Right.
What I said was they have to give us a factual basis,
Oh, my God.
meaning some suspicion of a crime. For example, I can't initiate an investigation of my neighbor just because I don't like him.
A neighbor?
Or just because he's politically different than me.
Right. So they need to prove.
Which is
So
really
they
what
need to
happened
prove
here.
to you that they have evidence, that they have more than suspicion that the president did something. I want to push back on you, though. Of course, there is a basis for this investigation. The whole investigation started back before the special counsel was even appointed, based on information that the FBI and Justice Department got from sources dealing with a whole bunch of people related to the Trump campaign. So it's a little bit of a red herring to say there's no basis and there's no evidence for this investigation.
The fact is that investigation is highly suspect. It's under investigation right now by Horowitz.
It's not.
He has suggested that it was influenced initially by bias. The same guy that did that, who has said horrendous things about Trump, never vetted by Mueller, became the head of Mueller's team. I mean, there's more. There are more things wrong.
Horowitz has talked about the Clinton investigation.
Yes. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, put out an Inspector General's report. It's already concluded. And that had to do with the Hillary email investigation. It did not have to do with Robert Mueller's investigation. And how many times is Rudy Giuliani going to float out there that, it's all tainted because he doesn't like Strzok's text messages to his girlfriend? When Mueller was finally appointed by Rod Rosenstein, both of those two are Republicans, okay? Rod Rosenstein was handpicked by Donald Trump. And Rod Rosenstein then chose an independent counsel because Rod Rosenstein believed that the intelligence community had learned that it was true that Russia had interfered in the election and that every rock that you turned over in the Trump team had a Russian sitting there. It wasn't even whack-a-mole. It was, all the moles have Russians. Every single one in every hole was a Russian. And so he asked that a special prosecutor be appointed, and that special prosecutor was handpicked by Rod Rosenstein, and it was Bob Mueller. Both of those guys are Republican. Rudy Giuliani and how many people are going to have to tell Rudy Giuliani that Strzok was fired by Mueller?
What's the president afraid of? He's not afraid to sit down with Kim Jong-un. He's not afraid of sitting down with Vladimir Putin. Why is he afraid to sit down with Robert Mueller?
One of the problems here, I think Jay and John Dowd would attest to this, is the president's very anxious to testify because he knows he's done nothing wrong. It's us, his lawyers.
This is such bull crap. It's not us, his lawyers. The president can't testify. Rudy Giuliani has said the president can't testify. Every single legal person around Donald Trump, Dowd said he can't testify. Dowd said he wants to cooperate, but he can't. He will lie. Everybody knows he will lie. So here's Rudy Giuliani. And why is he doing this, okay? Why is he doing this? Because 45% of Trump world thinks that Mueller is doing a terrible, 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 terrible job, even though no one knows what job Mueller is doing. No one knows. So Rudy Giuliani realizes that Mueller might believe very strongly, that a sitting president can't be indicted. Therefore, he would refer it for impeachment to the House. And so Rudy Giuliani is doing the political thing, and Rudy Giuliani is giving out disinformation to Trump world, to Trumplandia, to the Cult 45 people, trying to get them to say that impeachment is wholly political and it was a witch hunt from the beginning and it was a witch hunt now. I got a news flash for Rudy. It isn't the legitimacy of Mueller's investigation that's under scrutiny, okay? Only in your world is Mueller under scrutiny. And in fact, Rudy was asked, why do you keep insinuating that Mueller is dirty? Oh, no. I'm not saying that. Well, you keep saying that he hired all these dirty people, but he fired the one guy. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.